Now, I just want to preface my top five by saying that my top five doesn't include like the well-known greatest movies of all time as they're known. Like, things like Godfather, Shawshank Redemption, Scarface, things like all these classic movies that everyone knows. Apocalypse Now. I want to preface that by saying like I do like all of those movies, but everyone who watches those movies tends to enjoy them. So I'm not going to put them in my top 10 because then I'm just giving a list of the greatest movies ever.
Too obvious.
Oh, sorry, top 5. Now, I also want to preface it by saying I couldn't narrow down my top 5.
Okay.
There were so many movies that I love that I actually have a top 10, but I'm not going to talk about my top 10. I'm just going to go through my top 10. Like, I'm going to give you a 5. So 10 to 5. So number 10, number 9, number 8, number 7, number 6. All right, number 10, I have Inglourious Bastards.
Okay.
Number 9, 21 Jump Street.
Wow.
Number 8 was the Harry Potter series.
Cheeky.
7 was Toy Story. Battle Royale is number 6. Now, I'll move on to the actual top 5. Avengers.
Okay, nice choice.
Not number 1, solely for the reason that the movies I'm going to talk about later on are, I think, better movies. But The Avengers was the second best comic book movie I think that has ever been made. Everything from the cinematography to the score I thought was excellent. And just seeing, I think the whole thing of seeing all of those characters in one movie is such a... The fact that they were able to pull it off as well as they did, I think was just unbelievable. Do you know what I mean? That they managed to make a movie that flowed, was hilarious in parts, but serious in other parts, and had great action. I thought was a great achievement. So, yeah, I definitely put Avengers as number 5. Honorable mention to the scene where the Hulk punches Thor. I thought that was excellent.
Yeah. Because
they allude to the fact that Banner can actually control the Hulk. So I read that scene as a kind of an end to their earlier fight on the helicarrier, as if I know you kind of put up a bit of a fight, but I still win because I'm the Hulk. Yeah. So also I talked about this in a vlog that my friend did when we went to see Iron Man 3, and I was talking about all the different Iron Man suits and stuff, and I said one of my favorite movie moments has to be the scene where Iron Man flies down, blasts a lot of the Chitauri away, fires a blast at Captain America's shield, and Captain America kind of deflects it, and then he flies up and helps Hawkeye, and the whole teamwork thing, that aspect I thought was really cool, and I'm really, really very excited for the second one, so I want to see how they're going to improve on it. So, number 5, The Avengers, without a doubt. That's a really good choice, and I couldn't agree more with it. It's not in my top 5, but not because of any other reason other than I didn't think about it. But yeah, it's probably it's up there with possibly one of the very best comic book movies. They nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. It could have been a mess with all of those characters. It could have been an absolute mess, but it was just perfect. And as you mentioned, it has the humor in and everything, but they didn't completely ruin the tone of the movie. They had a great balance between the humor and the serious. Exactly, and I think that the choice of director was brilliant. Spot on. They got the right guy. Yeah. So what's your number 5? Well, actually, I'll do a little speech like you did about yours. I don't have a top 10, but my top 5, same again. They're not the obvious choices that you see on movie lists everywhere. And for the same reason as you, I didn't want to be too obvious about it. I found it difficult to come up with a top 5. So what I did was I gave myself 5 categories. So you've got sci-fi and horror and what have you. What I had for number 5 was actually, I had it in the comedy category. And I'm going to take that out because I'll mention this film at some other stage. It's a great film, it's a great comedy, but I don't think it has a place in the top 5 movies of all time in my book. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace it with something else that's not a comedy. The Matrix. Ah, a good choice. The reason I'm choosing The Matrix for the top 5 is, and I could say the whole Matrix franchise, the way you went with Harry Potter, but I know a lot of people have a big problem with the sequels, which I actually don't, so I don't have a huge problem with them. I have problems with aspects of them, but in general, I thought they were good. But we'll go with the first one anyway, and mainly because the first one, in my book, it was groundbreaking. I don't mean just the special effects side of things. I mean, there was nothing that we hadn't really seen before, special effects wise. Even bullet time had been seen before.
In fact, Blade, I think, was the first film that had bullet time in it. But what I mean by groundbreaking is it's, I don't know how to put this really. The Matrix, it legitimized that sort of film. Over the top, overblown, sci-fi / fantasy type thing. A brand new type of idea that we hadn't seen before. I mean, I watch a lot of B movies and stuff on the Sci-Fi Channel and what have you. And that's the only place you're going to see outlandish films with ridiculous plots. But the downside to that is they tend to be very, very cheesy and very, very cheap. And what the Matrix did was it came along with a big budget and a serious kind of gravitas to it. I think it just opened the doors for more movies like that. Equilibrium? Did Equilibrium come after the Matrix?
Yeah, I'm really sure it did. Yeah, I'm really sure.
Yeah,
it did.
so there's another, bigger budget movie that possibly wouldn't have been made. It could have been made 5 years beforehand, and it wouldn't have been as good. They probably wouldn't have had Christian Bale, and it probably would have gone straight to DVD.
Yeah. Another thing about the Matrix that I really, I think that you made a good point about it being groundbreaking is it was such an original idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was just kind of like you'd never seen a movie like that before, and everything. Sorry, I'm gonna kill that fucking dog. I'll be back in a second. Fucking dog. But yeah, The Matrix is a great choice for number 5, definitely.
So,
anything else you'd like to add about it?
About The Matrix? No, that's pretty much my main reason for putting it in there, is the whole fact that it just came in and it opened up the doors for that kind of movie. Before that, I can't think of anything even remotely like it in the last couple of decades before that. In fact, here's one. It's not in my top 5 now, but The Fifth Element.
Yeah.
There's another film that went with the whole sci-fi, fantasy, completely overblown, ridiculous story, but taken seriously. And money thrown at it. They took a risk. They took a huge risk. Some people might think it didn't pay off. I think it did. But the fact of the matter is, they put themselves out there.
It's a great movie, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Regardless of, I'm not sure how it did at the box office and whether it made money or it was critically successful, but I think it's a very, very good movie. Number 4, we had a discussion about this on Facebook. Old Boy.
Aha.
Old Boy. Now, I know that you don't want to watch Old Boy, you want to wait for the American remake to come out. Fair enough. I personally don't plan on watching the American remake at all, regardless of whether it gets good reception, bad reception, whatever. Because I had high hopes for the remake. Initially, when I heard about, Josh Brolin, I was thinking, okay, maybe. Sharlto Copley as well. I haven't seen Elysium, but I loved him in District 9. Not so much the A-Team. But I mean, he's a good actor. I think the problem with the A-Team is just he had a shit script to work with. You know what I mean?
He's a great actor.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. But the only problem I have now with this movie is that the trailer that came out is too much like the original. They seem to have gone with the remake that the really bad horror movie remakes where they sometimes have frame for frame shots.
Oh, shot for shot remakes, yeah.
Yeah.
They did that with Psycho, I think, didn't they?
It seems like in the trailer for the American one, they have him, his head. They've got like a little slot at the bottom of the door, and his head's out there, and he's trying to get the food, and he's saying nearly word for word. Obviously, the original was in Korean, but he's saying an English version of what the character in the Korean movie said, and it just seems to be trying too hard to emulate while claiming to be something different. Like they say that it's going back to the source material because it's originally a comic book. So saying they're going back to that and they're taking more influence of that, but it seems to be it seems to just be a cheaper, not cheaper because I'm sure it's more expensive with the actors that are involved and all that. What I mean is it just seems to be an Americanized version. So it's literally a movie made for people who are too lazy to read subtitles. That's my opinion. You know what I mean? It's like the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo remake. Now, I didn't like the original and I didn't like the remake. But my problem with the remake was mostly the fact that it was the Swedish version. Okay, everyone in the movie was supposed to be Swedish. Okay? They followed the exact same storyline and they were speaking English with a Swedish accent. So what is the point? Like, why not just move it to England or America? Do you know what I mean? So it
Yeah.
just seems to be a very, very blatant remake. The reason I love Old Boy, which I probably should have got into rather than going on a rant about the remake, but I had to get it out of the way.
Yeah.
And the reason I love Old Boy is it is for Korean cinema, because Korean cinema kind of had a history of just being romantic films, and some horror movies were really good. But for this kind of broke the mold of what was a popular Korean film. You know what I mean? The movies that have started coming out after, like The Man from Nowhere, stuff like that. You can definitely see the influence of Old Boy on those movies. It's just, I mean, it is the perfect movie. You know what I mean? I can watch it. I think I've seen it about 7, 8, 9 times, something ridiculous like that, and I just never get sick of it. And just the violence is realistic in parts. Okay, obviously it's overblown in other parts, but it's just everything is perfect about it. The violence,
Yeah.
the relationships between the characters, the motivations for the characters, and also there's a very, very big twist in the movie that
Yeah.
even if you are spoiled about the twist of the movie, you will be misled when watching the movie for the first time. So there's still a twist.
Yeah.
So it is an excellent, excellent movie, and I recommend you watch that. I know
Yeah.
you want to wait, but I think you should watch it.
Yeah, well,
Definitely.
this is the thing. Obviously, Old Boy is one of those movies that a certain group of people would put it up there with, The Godfather. It's a film you tell everybody that they have to see it. So I've heard about it, and it's worth mentioning at this point as well that I've never seen The Godfather
Whoa.
or
Okay.
Scarface
Ah, really?
or Bambi. Now, the thing is, the reason I haven't seen any of those films isn't out of any kind of conscious rebellion against popular movies. It's purely that I've never been driven to see them. They've never been on TV when I'm flicking around, or I've never seen them on the listings, whatever. I'm sure I will see them someday.
Yeah.
But the point I'm going to make about Old Boy, I knew it was out there. I knew people were talking about it. One thing that did throw me off was, like 9 times out of 10, when people were talking about it, they just kept going on about the octopus.
It's not
And
that big of a deal.
yeah, I understand that it wouldn't be, but the fact that I was hearing so much about it, I was like, I want more from a movie. But the thing is, I'll just get to a point here. I knew they were making an American version, and then the trailer came out, and I saw the trailer, and it fucking
Yeah.
blew me away. I thought, that looks class. Now, I was well aware that, like most things, the American version is probably going to be crap compared to the Korean version. Now, that doesn't mean anything about the American, about Hollywood or anything like that. I actually like some Hollywood remakes, but then others, it's like what you were saying. What is the point in making it? Care for the Dragon Tattoo was actually a great example of that. Zero point. They changed nothing. In fact, they did change a couple of little things, a couple of subtle little details, but the changes that they made actually ruined it for me. There was
Really?
aspects to the relationship between the girl and the journalist whose name I can't think of, Daniel
Yeah.
Craig. There was aspects to that relationship that I didn't see in the original Swedish version.
Hmm. Yeah. It just,
Um,
I think for me with Old Boy, it's because it's part of a trilogy of movies called the Vengeance Trilogy. It's Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance,
yeah,
Old Boy, and Lady Vengeance. Okay.
yeah,
Now I watched Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and actually, um, when I watched Sympathy, then I watched Lady Vengeance, and then I watched Old Boy. Okay, so I watched
yeah,
number one, number three, and number two, I suppose. Even though they're not connected, there's no link, so you can watch them as standalone movies.
yeah,
Now, I preferred Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance over Lady Vengeance, and I was sitting there going, "This Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance is so good. I don't get how Old Boy can possibly top it."
yeah,
Okay, and then I watched Old Boy, and for the first hour or so, I could see where people might think it's a little bit slow. But when the movie starts to continue and it gets to the end, and you can see where it was building up to this kind of crescendo. It's like a good song, it gradually builds and builds and builds and builds, and then it finishes, and the ending is the most important thing. Like a
yeah,
good shag, really. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's a building, feeling, and then there's the release. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But this movie is just, it blew me away. It still blows me away when I watch it. Cinematography is amazing. It's beautiful to watch. I haven't gotten the Blu-ray yet, but I am planning on getting it because there's a 3.5 hour documentary on the making of the movie.
wow,
So it's just an amazing movie, and it was actually very difficult for me to not put it as number one on my list.
Yeah.
But when you hear my number one, you'll probably understand why I didn't make it my number one.
Yeah.
So that's all I'll say, and you can go on to your number four now.
Okie dokie. My number four. This is an incredible coincidence. Also a Korean movie.
Ah.
Yeah. The Host. I can't think what it's called in Korean. Guamul or something like this. Basically, I came across this a couple of years back. I seen an ad for it. I'm not sure what channel. And the ad that I seen made it out to be something similar to The Ring or The Grudge or that kind of film. And the fact that I was looking at Asians, that's what got me interested in it, because everybody always talks about how the Japanese version of The Ring is better than the English-speaking version and this, that, and the other. So just out of pure curiosity, I watched it, and as it turned out, it was nothing like The Ring or The Grudge. It's a monster movie.
I'll make a confession right now. I've never seen it.
It's if we were doing a top 5 of like monster movies, it would easily be number 1.
Oh,
easily.
Okay.
And that's not just in foreign movies, that's of all time. What I love about it is the monster itself. It's not too big. We're not talking about Godzilla or King Kong. And it's when you're working with CGI, there's no limit to how big you can make a monster. But they chose to make a smaller monster, which makes it a much more personal film. And on the same note as that, it is a more personal film because it doesn't deal with the city that this monster attacks. It deals with one family, one group of 4 people, and how they live through this situation with this monster on the loose.
Mm-hmm.
The CGI itself is actually very good, considering the film is a few years old. I think it was the same team that worked on the early Harry Potter films. But yeah, it's an amazing film, and there's moments of humour in it that in a Western film they wouldn't have made the cut. Things like people falling over in comical fashion and stuff like that. If that was in Hollywood, it would have been cut out because it's like ridiculous. Even at one point, the monster falls over, which makes the monster look silly. But I think it adds to it because it's realistic. In real life, if you had a monster that had evolved in water, running on land, of course it's going to slip and fall all over the place.
Not considering the fact that it's probably also wet from being in the water.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just common sense, really. Yeah,
so yeah, I just think they nailed it. They made a perfect monster movie, and unlike most monster movies, it's personal. It feels like a very personal film. You're living through this situation with this family, rather than seeing the army come in and some rugged hero who goes up against the monster and all that bullshit.
A la Godzilla and Mattie brother.
Exactly. And in fact, they are going to make an American version of this. And you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to be some gun-toting moron is going to be the centre of attention, blowing this thing to King Kong.
It seems to be a feature of, like, especially Asian films, that there's a sense of realism to them, that they focus on what would actually really happen in this situation.
Yeah.
Obviously, you hear of that from Man of Steel, which was supposed to be this realistic take on Superman. Like, what would happen if people saw this happening?
Yeah.
And you're saying, but like, I mean, you're still talking about a superhero movie, but in Asian films, like things like people falling over, stuff like that needs to be a feature of the realism to it. Now you've got movies that are fucking out of control, like a movie called Itchy the Killer, which it's not in my top 5, but it's a personal favorite of mine, which is completely overblown.
Yeah.
When we get onto our top 5 horror movies, if we do that in the future, that would be one of mine, probably my number 1. But I just think Asian movies are more realistic on what is real life and how does it affect real life.
Yeah.
And European cinema is all about writing, basically, is what I feel.
Oh yeah.
It's nothing better than an old French skin flick, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
2 o'clock in the morning, Channel 4.
Yeah. Yes, exactly, yeah. Personal favourite would be a movie called The Swimming Pool. If you haven't seen it, look it up. Number 3 is The Dark Knight.
Okay.
The Dark Knight. Now, 2 comic book movies in my top 5, but I'm a huge comic book fan, so, obviously there's going to be personal favourites. But The Dark Knight is a movie that I can rewatch. Like, I can watch it one day and I can watch it the following week and I'll enjoy it just as much as I did the first time that I watched it.
Yeah.
I think I saw it 4 times in the cinema when it came out. I absolutely love the movie. It's just, I mean, the IMAX shots are amazing to look at. You know your man Wally Pfister, which is the best name ever, the director of photography. Or I love it on the commentary track when Christopher Nolan says, "Wally Pfister, my DP." And I'm like, yes, Nolan, you did it. But like, I mean, he's just the shots that man creates are astounding, and just the storyline is. And we talked about this in the Walking Dead video about how it's all about interpretations of characters. Like we were saying, Walking Dead could be extended; they don't have to follow the comic, whatever. But I think that this is in a film version. It's the best version of Batman they've ever done.
Yeah.
Okay, the Christopher Nolan version. Now, that would be, I wouldn't even like to say closely followed by Tim Burton's version, because Tim Burton's version is atrocious in my opinion. Okay, I cannot stand Tim Burton. I hate all of his movies. Fuck him and fuck Johnny Depp. Alright? But I think the second best version of Batman has been the DC animated movies that they've made. I think they stick really close to it. Sorry, number 2 would be the Arkham series, the games, and then number 3 would be the DC, the animated movies. But with The Dark Knight, you've just got, it's just an amazing movie. Like, Heath Ledger as the Joker was a casting choice that everyone went mad about. The same with Ben Affleck. I think he's going to surprise people in Man of Steel sequel.
Yeah.
But Heath Ledger is just completely just made that role his own. Didn't go near Jack Nicholson's interpretation, which I also don't like. I actually am not a fan of Jack Nicholson in the Joker role.
Yeah.
Okay, I know that could be quite a controversial opinion because everyone says he's brilliant. I just don't like him in that role. But I just think Heath Ledger was excellent. And I love the fact that they didn't make the Joker this chap who fell into a vat of acid and didn't, melt as most people would. They made him just a psychopath who wears clown makeup.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was brilliant. Same way Batman isn't this, genius. He's not a detective. You know what I mean? He's just someone who is a good fighter and is also a little bit insane.
Yeah, and has a really overblown sense of justice. Yeah,
exactly. And I just think the way they did it was excellent. I love the way they did Two-Face as well, with the burnt face, and it's just everything about the movie is perfect. There are plot holes that people point out, like how did they fall from the building and land on the car and not crash and stuff like that, and not die. And I'm like, just fucking stop! It's a comic book movie. So I just love the movie. I absolutely love it. Obviously we're doing our top 5. It's one of the best movies I've ever watched in my life. Yeah. And I actually think Heath Ledger has given the best performance in a Batman movie that anyone's ever given. He was better than Christian Bale. He completely put Christian Bale to shame in that movie. Now, that's not saying Christian Bale's performance was bad. I'm just saying when you compare it to Heath Ledger, nothing. So, yeah, Heath Ledger for the win.
Yeah, so The Dark Knight, it's a pretty good choice. One of the things about it was how much people loved it. That's always kind of a turn-off for me. When you get the majority of people going crazy for the film, I don't know what it is about me. I just get this kind of thing when I'm like, I'll watch it at some stage. I'm glad you mentioned Two-Face. That was one of the problems I had with that film. The moment he became Two-Face, it seemed like a very, very short period of time between that moment and him dying. And I thought that was a waste of a great character.
Yeah.
He had about 3 scenes as Two-Face.
Yeah. But to counter that point, I will say that Two-Face as a character wasn't created to be a villain, I don't think, in Nolan's world. I think he was created to show the effect of the corruption in the city and all that. I don't think he was supposed to be a villain role, even though he does turn bad and tries to kill Gordon's family or whatever.
Yeah,
I don't think
it could have been very easy. It could have been very easy to have another Tommy Lee Jones kind of Two-Face.
Exactly, yeah.
This overblown.
I think he was just like a creation of the corruption in the city, and I think that's what makes this, for me, that's why I don't see it so much as a waste, because it's like almost like the film comes full circle, do you know what I mean? Like, he's not a villain, he's someone who was corrupted by the city and the Joker, and that's why this happened. And then it carries on into the third film. The effect of what happened to him is felt through the third movie. Now, the third movie, is a movie that I enjoyed, I liked watching it, but it doesn't stand up to repeated viewings. And it's not as good as The Dark Knight. And I think people heap way too much praise on it. Also, your point about people liking it too much and how much people liked it turned you off.
Mm.
What did piss me off when the movie came out was that everyone became a Batman fan then. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Everyone was like, oh, Batman, Batman, Batman. And you're like, yeah, but did you see Batman Begins in the cinema? I know that's kind of a very hipstery thing to say. Did you see Batman Begins? Kind of, I
No, but
did.
it's fair.
But like, yeah, but like what I'm saying is that they only liked it because I think as well Heath Ledger dying was a huge thing as well. That really,
Oh, hugely. Yeah.
yeah, I don't think it contributed to the success of the movie. I think if he had been alive, I think people still would have praised him and loved the movie as much as they did. But I just think him dying attracted more people. People like to see, oh, will there be a hint to the fact that he died, or would you
Yeah.
see something in the movie that you know what I mean? So, also on that point, I think Chris Nolan is a bit of a dick for completely writing Heath Ledger out of the history of the movies.
Yes.
In a way, he's kind of just made it like there's no special features about Heath Ledger, there's no
No.
references to Heath Ledger, nothing like that. And I think people would like to see more of the behind the scenes stuff to do with him because people aren't obsessed with him because he's dead now. You know, people who actually are fans of film. I think people just want to see his method, what he did, you
Yeah.
know, things like that. So I think they should address that more. But
Yeah.
sorry, I rambled there for a long time, but it's a movie I love. So
Yeah. No. I agree, and I think in the third film there should have been at least some sort of a nod to the Joker. I like the way Scarecrow made an appearance.
yes, yeah,
Obviously, you couldn't do the exact same thing because Heath Ledger's not around to do anything like that. But
yeah.
something, I don't know, something. Maybe just a picture, or maybe just a mention of him, even. You know.
I think that Heath Ledger, had he still been alive, or the Joker character would have been great in that scene. I think he would have done. It would have been a lot funnier to see the Joker in that role.
Yeah.
But there is a reference in the novelization of the movie, Dark Knight Rises. There's a reference to the Joker escaping from prison, and he hasn't been seen since. That's all I say. The Joker was left in Arkham, but he got out. So yeah.
Yeah.
My number two I have to announce is it's going to be a strange one, and people are going to be asking me what the fuck is going on. Actually, and I do have a confession. I kind of broke the rules a little bit on the top five. I have a joint number two, which I think people are going to be kind of screaming at me. Like, what? I also broke the rules a little bit.
It's a joint. So you've got two films in the two spot, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got two films in the number two spot. Yeah.
Well, so long as there's some sort of relationship between the two films, I can't
really
see
isn't.
much of a problem.
There really isn't.
All right.
So
That's.
I mean,
What
you
are the
could
points?
not get. You could. I mean, there's one on one end of the spectrum and the other on the other end of the spectrum. So, I mean, yeah. And my number one is a classic that everyone loves.
Obvious
What about
choice.
Liam's? What?
My top two. I don't think there's anything too controversial there. I think they're both films that people aren't going to necessarily think of when they're trying to think of their top fives, but they'll definitely appreciate them.
Yeah.
Maybe not so much my number one. Number one might be a shocker, but I'm relying on the fact that it's a film that's well known in certain circles. In other circles, it's completely unheard of. So when those circles hear that it's number one, they're going to be like, what? They're just not going to know, so they can't have an opinion. But the smaller circle who are aware of it are going to go, oh yeah, nice one.
Do you think I know it?
Yes. That doesn't mean you like it.
I think I know what it is.
Yeah. Tell you what. Write it down.
Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll put it in an envelope and take a picture of sealed envelope, and I'll open it live.
If you get it right, I'll do a baby Guinness.
Class. All right.
All right.
That's actually something enjoyable for you. How is that fair?
Yeah, that's true. I do like baby Guinness.
If I get it right, you have to watch a movie of my choice, and it can be anything.
God. All right.
Yeah. All right.
Can I drink more baby Guinness as well? I'm watching it.
Yeah, you're gonna need it if I go with the one that's in my head right now.